In 2014, the Detroit Lions could have drafted Aaron Donald, but instead they went with Eric Ebron. And could you imagine, had we drafted Aaron Donald with Ndamukong Suh still being on the roster? He was entering his last year of his rookie contract. We would have had Ndamukong Suh, Aaron Donald, and maybe things would have been a little different. Maybe the Detroit Lions would still not be searching for their first Super Bowl. But alas, Aaron Donald was taken by the LA Rams and eventually wound up helping them win a Super Bowl, and now he is retired. This is his first year being retired. But our current quarterback was the former quarterback of the LA Rams, and as we know, Jared Goff was included in that trade for Matthew Stafford, a third-round pick and 2 first-round picks to get Matthew Stafford as part of the LA Rams. They, in turn, that very same year, win a Super Bowl. Now, why was Jared Goff traded? There's been a lot of talk as maybe the LA Rams gave up on him. Sean McVay, they had just paid him a monster contract a few years earlier and literally threw him in the trash heading into that 2021 season. But what could have been another reason that Jared Goff was traded to the Detroit Lions? Well, Aaron Donald was on the 25-10 show. He's currently retired, as we know, got his title, played a couple more years and decided to hang it up. He said he just didn't have that passion anymore. And I can, relate to that. Whenever you're not passionate about something, that's when you got to stop. But he gave his thoughts as to why he thinks that Jared Goff was traded. Says, not saying that Jared Goff wasn't that guy. I think he was just younger, and they weren't willing to wait for a development process with him. They were more trying to win now. He continues, I think adding a veteran guy who had been around a long time, that had played with some great football players, played some great football a long time, bring him to a team with the pieces to get it done. That was a big help for us. Donald also expressed his happiness for Goff, who had found plenty of success and a career resurgent in Detroit under Dan Campbell and offensive coordinator Ben Johnson. Says everything happened for a reason. I think Jared Goff is in a great position right now where he's playing some good football, becoming that veteran presence, becoming that household name, getting his team to where it needs to be. Well, shout out to Aaron Donald, man. Appreciate that. I've got no ill feelings about these comments here. I think he's exactly right. Les Need, the GM for the LA Rams, had a saying. And it goes, forget them picks, as in forget those first-round picks. We're trying to win a Super Bowl. And don't forget that the LA Rams did not have a first-round pick for 4 years. They actually tried to trade for Brian Burns and give up another 2 first-round picks. They would have gone 6 years. They gave up 2 for Jalen Ramsey. They gave up the next 2 for Matthew Stafford, and they tried to give up the 2 after that for Brian Burns, but the Carolina Panthers shot it down. That would have been 6 years with no first-round pick. Now, the Detroit Lions are taking a different path. We had 2 first-round picks for the 22-23 season. Some of them turned into Jameson Williams, and we know how the Matthew Stafford trade finally panned out. This was our first year in 2024 without that second first-round pick, and it kind of felt weird. I forgot all about that first year. When the trade had already happened, we still had 2 first-round picks for 22 and 23 in the bank. That's 2021 was a horrendous year, and we didn't even have the first-round picks to work with like we did in the upcoming years. But Aaron Donald saying, listen, we got the pieces. I mean, it's not a bad look. Like, I'm not trying to find something wrong, but basically they were impatient. They didn't want to wait for his development. They felt like they had all the pieces they needed, and he was not the piece. The missing piece they thought was Matthew Stafford, and it turned out to be right. You had everybody else in place. You had the receivers. You had the defensive line. You had the offensive line, and then you bring in a quarterback to wind up taking you to the Super Bowl. It's very unfortunate for Jared Goff, but you know what? I agree with Aaron Donald that everything happens the way it's supposed to. Jared Goff has spoke on his trade to Detroit and how it has changed him as a football player, but more importantly, as a man. And if you go back and you watch when the Inside the Den from a few weeks ago that focused on Jared Goff and his contract extension, you could see that you can see the change. And you know what's crazy about this whole thing is the effect that Detroit is having now on players. Look at Jameson Williams, right? And this is this has always been a Detroit thing, but I really don't think we had the leadership in place to really allow that to be seen. We had Martha, we had William running the team, and Martha did a admirable job, but her daughter has really taken it to the next level. Then you bring in coach and GM, right? And general manager Brad Holmes just said he loves living in this city, that no other city compares to the passion that the Detroit Lions fans have. Then you bring in a guy, a California boy like Jared Goff, has no idea what Detroit is about. He knows what he's heard, but he doesn't know the real facts. Comes to Detroit, and it changes him as a man, as a person, and that's a big deal. But what do you think of Aaron Donald and his thoughts of, is he right? He probably is. He probably is. Jared Goff was 2016 drafted first overall pick. So you are on, 2016, 17. You go to the Super Bowl in your third season. That's when you went to the Super Bowl, right? It has been 6 years since Jared Goff was in the Super Bowl. How much has he grown between as a football player between 2018 and 2024? We've seen it. Everybody was ready to write him off and throw him in the trash, and some Detroit Lions fans did that. Even now, you're not really ready to accept Jared Goff. But I'm not knocking at anything Jared Goff said or Aaron Donald said. I think it's 100% facts. I think that, you could kind of, see like, he wasn't ready. That's kind of what he's saying, that they didn't think he was ready, but I love how he said, listen, he's doing this thing, becoming a household name. And that's exactly what he is doing, because no other quarterback in the National Football League has had this. Not only was that a wonderful thing then, it is never going anywhere. That will be around as long as Jared Goff is a Detroit Lion and beyond that. Matthew Stafford might have a Super Bowl, but when Jared Goff wins it, it's going to be a whole different thing. It really is. It's going to be, you're talking about, and what's kind of crazy is I'm kind of thinking about this, getting a little emotional about it, right? How you build something. Jared Goff, the Rams went through a stage where they weren't that great. When he was drafted, they had the first overall pick. They were literally coming off of, in 2015, the worst quarterback, the worst, record. They had taken Sam Bradford in 2010. He amounted to nothing, right? And to think about how Stafford he chose to go to LA because there were other teams. I think the Carolina Panthers were interested. It was some other teams that were interested, but the Detroit Lions let him decide to go there. And how he went to a team that was built to win. The LA Rams were built to win that 1 year. That was it. And I think the LA Rams knew that. But imagine walking to something that's already built. Imagine the satisfaction of walking into somewhere and you build it from the ground up. Hutch, Goff, St. Brown. St. Brown even said the one team he did not want to go to is the Detroit Lions. And look how much it's changed him as a man, right? So the satisfaction that Jared Goff is going to get from building this team from the ground up and having the pieces put around him and winning a Super Bowl for a franchise that's never even been, that will dwarf anything Matthew Stafford did with the LA Rams and in the city of Detroit. I know a lot of y'all love Matthew, and that's cool. But Jared Goff, to me, is what the Detroit Lions are. Thrown away, cast aside, and have to reemerge through the fire, right? So let me know your thoughts on Aaron Donald. What did he say? How do you feel about it? Why do you think he was traded? Do you think it was something else, or you think he hit the nail right on the head? Also, consider subscribing to the YouTube channel. We are on a push to 22,000, and kickoff is in 8 days, man. And you can help me get there before we kick off against the LA Rams at Ford Field. A game I will be attending, so I will not be streaming that. Also, fantasy football people, if you are a recruit member, the link is active. We have one spot left. If you are not a Syndicate recruit member, do not sign up, because I will have to remove you, and then I have to remove groups of 2. So I don't want to have to do that and go through that process. The recruit members launches today in about 2 hours. 5 o'clock, one at a time, 5 or 6 o'clock my time, which is Eastern time. All right. And if you are a director member who is going to participate, your link will drop tomorrow. Okay. If you have signed up, please remove yourself if you can. If not, the football app makes me remove in groups of 2. So then I would have to remove somebody else and then have them come back in. All right. You guys are awesome. Take care of yourself and each other. And as always, go Lions.